Oh, yeah.
Thank you. So we have, wait for Bonnie Depper. We have Bonnie, Pauline. We have Leanne. Hi, Leanne. We have Harriet and Brian, myself, and Adrian.
And Amanda, Amanda's here too.
And Samantha.
I mean, Samantha.
Thank you for joining tonight. If you'd like to introduce yourself, you're more than welcome to. You can also remain muted and off camera.
Hi, I'm just a student at Tufts, like studying political science, and for class was asked to like observe. I'm like doing some research about like Somerville City Council and was asked to like go sit in on like a city council meeting, and this is like one that I was interested in, and just thank you for letting me be here.
Well, glad to have you here. And thank you for coming.
Yes.
Okay, so I think we've done welcome and introductions. We've done our roll call. Adrian, you like to start us off with your updates, please?
Thanks, Holly. Through the chair, I have a couple things I can pass along, but first I would like to ask for consent or permission. Holly and I were on the receiving end of some communication from our mobility department involving some changes to, and Brian Postawait as well was involved in this last week, of some changes to some accessible parking in the Bow Street commercial, and there's residents there as well above the commercial space and some others. And it was sort of a very quick turnaround. So Holly did email that information out this morning, I believe, to get feedback via email. But I would like to either yield the majority of my 10 minutes so the folks who maybe haven't had a chance to have a full explanation of that receive that, or we can put that under new business, because unfortunately there is a tight timeline as this is going before the Traffic Commission on Thursday evening. And Brian has graciously, if through the chair, Holly, you permit this, to walk us through the information that Greg sent you to pass along.
That's fine. I the one reason we didn't add this to the agenda is I really didn't want to take away your time, because it's really valuable for the commission. And I did send it out, I think the day before yesterday, I'm not sure. I know Harriet was working on a response. I provided a response. Bonnie, did you have a chance to look at it also?
This is Bonnie. I started looking at it and I was going to provide a response in the time requested. So I was planning on doing that after this meeting or in the morning.
Okay. Pauline, were you able to take a look at what was sent out?
No,
Okay.
I was not, because I don't have access.
This is Bonnie. May I comment on that? I mean, I think this is a repeated problem. I mean, as we know, Pauline is blind and can't view these materials. And this is why Mobility has been asked to provide us updates. And they used to do that, and they used to loop us in. And that changed around the time that Adrian came on board. So I think this might be a good reminder that if they were more proactive about including us, it would provide everyone access instead of just some of us.
Yeah, Bonnie, this is Brian. I had offered, Greg was unavailable to come this evening, and I had offered to explain his diagrams, if that would be helpful to Pauline.
anything would be helpful is this the area around Union Square?
Yes.
Okay.
Let me just check one more thing, Brian, if that's okay, before
I'm
you get
I'm
started.
following your lead, Holly.
It's
I
fine.
was just answering the immediate question.
I appreciate that. Leon, did you have a chance to look at it? Are there any specific questions that you'd like answered?
I similarly have looked at it. I haven't written up a response yet, but I am planning to do so probably
Okay.
tonight or tomorrow morning.
Yeah, I'm fine, Brian, if you going over this with Pauline and if any of us have input. If we can try to keep it to 10 minutes, that would be much appreciated. And if Pauline, if you need myself or Adrian, I'm not sure what Adrian's time is like tomorrow, but to go through it verbally, what the visuals are, I definitely have time to do that. And
That would be appreciated.
okay. I did that earlier today with Harriet.
Yeah, and it was helpful. It gave me ground to be able to start my response too. Thank you.
So Holly, I don't know if you want me to do a quick summary of the request for advice.
Sure. That would be great.
I'm
Thank you.
going to share my screen, not because I know that Harriet can't see it, but because it helps me follow it, because I am a visual person. If it would be preferred that I not share my screen, I can do that too. Whatever's easiest for everybody else.
I think it'd be helpful for Samantha, who's observing, to see what we're
Okay.
talking about too.
If I'm correct, this is the presentation that was shared by Greg. Pauline, I'm going to address this to you, but if anyone else has questions, that's fine. The existing conditions in Union Square, as bounded roughly by Church Street in the west and Stone Ave and Somerville Ave in the east. So this is including Bow Street and the parallel part of Somerville Avenue to Bow Street. There are 6 existing accessible parking, or yes, there are 6 existing accessible parking spaces in this kind of triangle of an area. 3 on Bow Street and 3 on Somerville Avenue. There is one part, the parking space in question is on the western leg of Bow Street at Bow Street Place, adjacent to, somebody knows the name of the framing store that's there. I can't remember it, but it's a painting framing store on the corner of Bow Street Place and Bow Street. This particular accessible space was a resident requested accessible space. That resident no longer lives in the building. The impetus behind seeking the relocation of this accessible space is that we had the opportunity to put in a protected bike lane along this section of Bow Street. We don't have the space to provide a full accessible aisle between the parking space and the protected bike lane, which would be our preference. And as I recall, that's the preference of the commission. So we instead looked for 2 other places that would be improved locations in this Union Square triangle, and removing the location at Bow Street Place. The first location is at Church Street and Somerville Ave, immediately across from the Market Basket. And the second is at the corner of Somerville Ave and Kilby Street, across from Somervello, or what used to be Somervello. The options that we have in front of us are leaving the existing parking space where it is but it will be potentially compromised by the existing protected bike lane. However, that does mean that there's more space around the protected bikes or around the accessible parking space for potential other accessible benefits, such as a rear load van, and then provide one of the alternative spaces that I just spoke about. Or the preferred alternative for the city is to remove the parking space at Bow Street Place and provide both of the other two spaces that I just mentioned. I know that was a lot, Pauline, but if you have any questions or want me to repeat anything, I'm happy to.
I just have a question. With all these bike lanes, I mean, where are they going to find the room for all this stuff? Because
do you
I'm
mean,
not.
do you mean find the
Our
room
streets
for,
for these bike lanes, that really boggles my mind.
Yeah.
I mean, you've got enough trouble finding spaces for people to park, and you want to you want to have a bike lane in the middle of all that? Where?
so I don't know, Pauline, if that was a question regarding the relocation of the parking spaces.
Well,
or
it
not.
is in a way. It is in a way, because if you're gonna do that, you'd have to move that parking space. But where would you put it?
Well, Pauline, what I was describing is the other two locations that we would put that accessible parking space. And so this particular conversation of relocating the accessible parking space would not reduce or add any total parking spaces. It could, however, take a normal standard parking space and convert it into an accessible parking space, creating one additional accessible parking space.
I'm gonna take
Okay.
a question from Bonnie, and then Leanne, and then I see Harriet as well.
This is Bonnie. Thank you, Holly. I do have comments on the proposal, but in terms of, I just wanted to comment on Pauline. So there is an existing bike lane already. This isn't changing that. What they're doing is changing the location to move it from away from the curb. Right now, the parking is against the curb, and this is going to put the bike lane next to the curb instead of the parking next to the curb. So it's just flip-flopping the two. So the bike lane already exists and parking already exists. So space-wise, nothing is changing. They're just switching the location of each. Does that make sense?
Well, yeah, sort of.
Okay. So,
It's just-
yeah, right
it's
now
just
to park, you have to cross the bike lane,
Yeah.
and they're going to make it so that you don't have to drive across the bike lane.
Okay.
But that
Okay.
means that if you when you egress your car, you would have to walk or roll across the bike lane to get to
And-
the curb.
Yeah, Holly, can I give my comments on the spaces themselves?
Sure,
Mm,
sure.
Thank you. Brian, can you go back to the slide that has those spaces, please?
Absolutely. So this was the space
Mm,
requested for removal. This is the space at the corner of Church Street across from the Market Basket.
Yeah,
I'll stop here.
great, thank you. So Bow Street, I have been raising concerns about the accessible parking on it for years, and not these particular spaces. The previous slide you showed that had existing spaces, I think it's a little disingenuous to call it 6 spaces for Bow Street, because half of them were on Somerville Ave, and one of them is off of Bow Street, where you would have to turn off the street and not be able to continue onto Summer Street or back onto Somerville Ave. It would put you on a neighborhood street, which completely changes how you exit the area. Right now, the parking on Bow Street itself to access every business there is on the right side of the street. I don't know if that's east or west. I know that the language we got used east and west and not right and left. I find that confusing, but Right now, they're on that right side of the street, and the crosswalks are pretty far away. You have to go at least a block or two in one direction to be able to cross and then go back on the other side. So there's an existing space, space number 2, that is right near, it's between block 11 and the neighborhood. And that is a head-in parking space, which works great in terms of having rear access for people who need it, but it does not have a striped lane next to it. So it's not good for people who need that side exit. For passengers, it would be completely impossible. And for drivers, it depends on how many bikes are in the bike rack that's directly next to it. And as I said, there's no crosswalk. So if you're, say, trying to go to Union Square Donuts, you're going blocks out of the way. So it already is not very good. So I would not want to remove that other spot because it's near a crosswalk. It's a decent spot. I think that one should be added to the other side of Bow Street where the businesses are. There are parking spaces there currently. There could be a metered space turned into an accessible space, and that gives options for people who need passenger exit versus driver exit. The proposed new space, that would not give rear access, and it's a space that's routinely blocked. I do daycare pickup there, and people are routinely parking in it. And
You're
like,
referring to this one?
I am referring to that one.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's not a great location. And putting them on Somerville Ave, I'm all for adding more spaces, but I don't think that accomplishes serving Bow Street. That accomplishes giving more spaces on that side of Union Square. But when we're talking about accessible parking, having to traverse multiple blocks, especially on sidewalks that aren't very well maintained, I don't think that's useful.
So I'm hearing,
Sorry, I can sum up. I would
Yeah.
maintain this space, and I would suggest finding a spot to add one on the opposite side of Bow Street, on the left-hand side. And I
um,
think it should be further back with the businesses.
okay, so you're seeing this space primarily in its existing incarnation is primarily benefiting the businesses closer to Bow Street and not necessarily the businesses closer to Somerville Avenue. And thus an
No, I think,
alternate space should be closer to the Bow Street, Summer Street intersection.
yeah, I think this space serves both equally as well, which is to say, not amazingly, but it's at least close to crosswalks.
Mhm.
And you don't have to go really far out of the way to cross the street, unlike the other space that exists on Bow Street.
Correct. Okay.
So it's kind of like the best of both worst worlds.
Yeah.
The better of the two.
Yeah, no, and I don't want to, but Bonnie, you were gonna provide this.
I
What
will write this up as well.
Yeah, and I just want to be sensitive of Holly's time. And I think what I'm trying, if we don't want to relocate this space, that's fine. Do you, and we're interested in adding at least one more space due to this, either say keeping this space and adding another space, or removing this space and adding 2 more spaces. I think that's well within what we can do in the short term.
That's great to hear, Brian. Thank
But what I'm hearing from you, Bonnie, is you'd prefer to leave this space and I'm assuming add 7 since you kind of said 6 wasn't very effective.
This is Bonnie. Yes, keep this space. I don't know what you mean by 7 because I'm not looking at the image.
Sorry, This was the space number 7
Um,
at
I
Kilby
don't-
Street.
think that's a great location.
Okay.
I might be the only one who feels that way, but I don't think it adds anything significant, and
Okay.
I think it's routinely blocked.
Um, so
Can we-
I'm hearing at present from you at least, don't make any changes, look for another space to add on the other side of Bow Street. And we can come back and look at that and see what we can do on that. I think that's a fair comment.
Can we just let Leon add if he'd like to, if they would like to?
Yeah, this is Leon. I'll be quick with my justifications and put them in when I write things up. But I'm mostly aligned with Bonnie in terms of the existing spots don't really serve Bow Street very well. I think I tried to map it out last night, and like to get to the post office, which feels like, you know, a place that someone should be able to get to. The closest was like all the spots were like 450, 500 feet away. Even the one that is directly in sight of it, because of where the crosswalks are, you have to go, you know, a block away and then cross 3 streets to get there. There are some of the ones on like the other side of Somerville Ave don't require crossing a street, but they require going around the block knowing it's there. And so if you are trying to go to the post office, you're not necessarily going to find that. So there aren't any good options that someone who hadn't like looked up where the spots are ahead of time would necessarily find. So I definitely adding on the left side of that section of Bow Street where the post office is, I think would be really helpful. So my questions along that vein are, the spots that you have identified as potentials, are those we've gone through everything and those are the only ones that work, or these are the ones that we found as options, but others would potentially work? And what is happening bike lane wise on that first half of Bow section before it splits off to Summer Street? Is anything changing with the parking there?
Yeah, so the quick answer there is that the only changes to the bike lane are between Summer Street here and Bow Street across from Carlton, going to the west. The section here by the post office and the donut shop, so forth, we're not proposing any changes over there, but happy to look for an alternative on that side for an accessible parking space. Our initial thought was with the spot being removed at Bow Street Place, this mostly served these businesses over here. But if you're saying the other way from if you're saying that actually this spot better serves these businesses over here and we should better have a spot on the other side of Bow Street, we totally can look for that. The one of the pieces that I'm looking at is trying to avoid blind corners where motorists are coming around a turn, an inside turn, and somebody trying to get out with a mobility device into the travel lane. I'm just trying to minimize that potential conflict, but I think there's a way to do it. I just wasn't looking that far away from Bow Street Place.
Yeah. Yeah, I think right now, the one that you're proposing removing serves the businesses like the post office and Union Square Donuts, because if you are traveling along Bow Street looking for a spot, it's likely the first one that you find that seems like it'll work, because there's the one directly across, but there are no crosswalks. And then there's the one up, I guess it was Wesley Park or whatever. But if you don't know what's there, like I didn't know that was there until I saw this diagram, because it's tucked across the side street that you're not looking at. And so that one by Bow Street Place is likely the first one you see that you go, okay, maybe this will work. So I think if there were one closer to the businesses on the left side of the street on the start of Bow Street, I think that the one by Bow Street Place wouldn't be as important unless there are other businesses over there that I'm not remembering. But I think, yeah, like right now it's definitely helping, but I think one farther up Oak Street on the left would do that even better.
Hugely helpful advice, and definitely things that I didn't think of, and Greg, my compatriot who was helping me figure out good alternatives.
Yeah.
So
Um,
thank you. This is super helpful.
Yeah.
And we will look at
One-
that as quickly as we can.
Yeah. One more question that I just thought of. Is there any way to do signage that indicates there's an accessible spot just down this side street? So that it would be more easily findable from the main street?
I honestly don't know if that's a tool in our an easy tool. Like, we could create that tool. It takes longer to create a tool than it is to pull out an existing tool. I don't know whether that tool exists.
There's an application is a.
Yeah,
form-
no, but Lean's asking for a specific sign, and I don't know if there's a standard sign that we have available, or if we would have to create a new sign.
Yeah. And I guess also, like, was that spot created as this is near the businesses, or was it created as a resident requested it?
The Wesley Park one is a residential request.
Okay, and then I would less want that to be like pointed
Right.
out as a like.
Yeah.
Bonnie, do you have something to add? I'm gonna have to stop it there though.
Yeah, I was just going to say that it also for this particular spot might not be useful in terms of, as I said previously, it turns you onto a neighborhood street that then becomes a lot harder to get back to where you're trying to go. So if somebody was already parked in that space, suddenly you're driving around and trying to figure out how to get back in an area that has a lot of one-way streets, and you can't easily get back to both. So I think it would create excess traffic.
Harriet, would you also like to comment? We have to move forward.
Only it'd take like less than 30 seconds. Here you
Sure.
go. One of the things that has not been mentioned is that long 450 feet or getting to a crosswalk. We're talking of a variety of disabilities. What about anybody who's respiratory compromised, like COPD? Asking this individual to walk 400 feet to get to something that, if the parking were more conveniently located toward the stores, is asking a lot, and also just the whole crosswalk stuff. Some other day I'll call you, Brian, and talk to you about what I'm scared about with the bike lanes and the parking and all that as a blind person walking
Yes,
across
no,
roads.
we should talk about that. I would like to.
Yep.
I would like to hear your perspective better.
Sure.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Harriet. Okay, we're gonna move on now. Adrian, would you mind just sharing any updates that you have with the commission as far as the mayor's office and where we stand with appointing new members?
I don't have an update on that, Holly. I'm sorry.
When will you have an update?
I will have an update, which at the same time you will receive an update. I don't have anything further.
Okay, well, what do you recommend that I do to get some information? I haven't had any responses from anyone at the mayor's office or the mayor. And if you don't have any information either, I don't know how to escalate this.
All I can do, Holly, is just pass it along that you're waiting for a response.
Harriet, you got a comment?
Yeah, just briefly. At the community meeting, it seemed that the mayor deferred to you and then deferred to Hannah. I'm not
Yes.
sure I know who Hannah is and what her position is.
Yeah, Hannah is the legislative liaison. So she has been she is often the one, particularly in this situation, that Holly has been communicating with. So that response will probably come from Hannah. But there's nothing new there yet. I certainly can reach out to Hannah and ask a status update tomorrow.
That would be
That'd be
great.
One last tiny question.
Of
So
course.
the application was opened I believe in March or April and closed in June, and then reopened in July or August. And there's no closing date, which is why we're hanging. Is that it?
That is what I'm aware of, Harriet.
Okay.
However, there's no documents available online other than the one that I sent you that says they had to apply by, I think it was early September.
I will check on it, Holly. Again, I'm sorry. I don't have anything further.
I
Okay.
understand. If there was one thing that I would plead with you to make a top priority in your role as the ADA, in your ADA role, it would be to please find out where that stands and get some hard timelines, because it's really imperative that we as a commission are able to not only function fully, but the moment the city it has very little regard for supporting persons with disabilities, by not enabling us to have a full commission, by not communicating with us. It's just, it shows complete lack of respect for persons with disabilities within the community.
I understand, Holly. I will pass that along.
Thanks.
Thank you.
With that said, the only two things I did want to pass along is if you all haven't already, and I'm happy to help folks if they can't access the current ways it's available, we'd appreciate anybody's feedback on the Public Safety for All survey, which has been out from RSJ for a little bit now. There's an online link, there's a paper version, and other formats I'm happy to walk through with folks. Give me 1 second, Bonnie, to get this other thing, and then I will answer your question on that. And then I did send it along to everybody, but you all remember from last month that the MBTA came and did a presentation on the Davis Square station, and they did mention there would be a public meeting, and that will be happening on Wednesday, the 16th at 6 o'clock, and that's virtual. And I believe, according to what I saw in that email I passed along, I believe you have to register to get that information. Bonnie?
Thank you. Did you want our feedback on that public safety survey now?
No, all I'm passing along is we would like from RSJ and the people, my colleagues in RSJ who created that, they're just looking for more folks to take it.
That's different than providing feedback on it. Thanks.
Money? I mean, no.
Sure, go ahead, Harriet.
I just wanted to ask, is it obvious from the information, because I've registered for the hearing already, whether comments or questions are going to be taken from those who come to the meeting?
You mean for the Davis Square period?
Yeah. Mhm.
I am not sure by that email, but I can reach out to Kim, who I believe is our main contact on that project, and clarify with her about the format of how the public comment's going to go. On
Great.
that.
Thank you.
Let you know.
Thank you.
Okay, let's go to number 4, Chair's report. One of the reasons I updated the standing agenda, the for our meetings going forward, was to make sure that we had the listing of all the commissioners at the beginning of the agenda. And we have associate commissioners and we have commissioners. By title, the only difference is voting, but everyone is a commissioner. And there is extreme value in each and every one of you. And I would like us to recognize the efforts of people who are associate commissioners and continue to participate. And myself, and I'm sure other commissioners, truly value that. And I'd like to make sure that moving forward, we don't need to delineate between an associate commissioner or a commissioner. I think if when we get to a point where we are voting, that's when that is important to understand who will be voting on something. But I think that one of my goals is to make sure that all commissioners can participate in all things. And to that end, throughout tonight, there's going to be moments where I'm going to talk about specific subcommittees I'd like to have put in place. And I think that all commissioners, I'd love to see if someone has a particular subcommittee that they feel strongly about being a part of. And let's see, another thing about all of our commissioners, again, the only restriction is voting. That means that any, let me just finish this thought, Brian, I'll give it right back to you. Any commissioner can hold an office as well. They could be a secretary, they could have many different roles. And again, they would not be able to vote on anything, but I just feel commissioners are commissioners. Brian, please go ahead.
Holly, this is Brian. I generally agree with you 100%. One thing to note is that by public meeting law, I don't believe that an associate commissioner can act as a secretary or a chair or a vice chair. Second is that an associate commissioner is not considered for quorum.
Correct.
So
That-
I just
that is
want to
part
make
of-
sure that we were clear
Yes.
on that. But other than that, I think everything else, I 100% agree with you.
I'd have to look about the holding, being the secretary. I certainly can understand not being the chair or the vice chair.
Yeah.
Donnie, do you have something to add?
If that's not true, I'm happy.
Oh, no. Yeah, it's not a
Yeah.
challenge. It's we should
Yeah.
find that out for sure.
Yeah.
I think there's some discrepancy within the city as to what the rules are, because I'm not sure about the position itself, but certainly in terms of taking meeting minutes, the city clerks do them for city council. So it's not just a straight across the board, public meeting law disallows this. But the law department and our liaison have been against us utilizing something like that. But in terms of the law, I don't believe that you can't have somebody do that. But whether or not we can implement it, I'm not sure.
Okay, well, I appreciate everyone's feedback and comments and clarity. Moving on to the next item I have, what's going on with the website?
Oh,
Please, I cannot find anything. I can't even general search have things come up. It's like it's a big black hole. I don't know if there's some type of switch that was hit and something got disconnected. I don't know, Adrian or Brian, being, municipal employees, have you heard anything? Have you had other issues? It's been just awful.
yeah.
For about how long have you been observing this, Holly?
At least a week.
Oh,
And it's like I can barely find our page. I can't even find, just meetings or documents, like things I could easily find either from a drop-down menu or just putting in the search window. So if either of you aren't aware of something that's going on or is being updated, then I can go back and look at specific things and work through those individually, but
yeah,
I
I don't know of
understand.
anything specific, Holly. The website was updated about, I don't know, it was in August. There was a big update that allowed for a change of different uses. I don't know all the changes.
Okay.
But I'm not aware of anything recent.
Bonnie, have you seen issues as well?
This is Bonnie, but just in terms of since that major website update, I think accessibility wise, it is a lot worse. It is extremely difficult to find things, and for meetings, it used to be for city council, you could click on the agenda and it would bring it up in the browser. And now it brings you to another screen and then you have to download a PDF and then open a PDF. So I think And the screen, the text size is also a whole lot smaller. So just accessibility wise, it's a lot less functional. And I've seen comments from people on Twitter with no known disabilities who are also struggling with it.
Adrian, would you mind trying to do some follow-up on that with regard to, whatever changes were made in August? I doubt they were intended to remove whatever accessibility existed. However, I agree with what Bonnie's saying, that it is harder, but I also feel strongly that it's really, our website has not been built to fit the guidelines for what what must be in a website for it to be considered accessible.
Yeah,
don't
I
think
can
we
dig into
be
that, Holly.
compliant, but if you could do some research on that to figure out what our process is,
Yes,
I would
I can do that.
I'd appreciate that. 1 second, Harriet. Leon, you had your hand raised.
Yeah, this is Leon. I just went to test this myself. And I just wanted to mention that I was able to find the page with the agendas and minutes. It's definitely not easy to find. But I just wanted to mention that I am able to open the documents in the browser. So whoever is testing this should just be aware that there might be a browsers or operating systems going on. So if it is working for them, it might not actually be working for everyone.
Leon, do you clear your cookies frequently? Clear out all your website data? So if you went to anything that you've been to before, it might have, it will find it easier because you sort of have a footprint there versus if you tried to go to something that you have.
Yeah. So when I tried to search for it in the agendas meetings or agendas minutes and more, it did give me a drop down for Commission for Persons with Disabilities when I typed in disabilities. And then, if I'm clicking on the agenda or whatever, it just opens the PDF directly in the browser rather than sending me to a separate page. So it sounds like different people are getting different behavior. So I just wanted to flag that for when it's being tested in case it works for whoever tests it, that they don't just say, oh, it's working.
Thanks, Leon. I know Harriet had a question, and then Bonnie, and then Adrian.
It's probably fruitless at this point, but Adrian, if by any chance you can find out who is the person or persons who is tasked with working with the website, webmaster position or whatever, I would absolutely love a 5 to 10 minute conversation with that person regarding accessibility. And that may not be possible, but I just feel that it would be helpful to have maybe, whoever else wants to join me. But I mean, seriously, I can't get anywhere with the search box for the most part. So that's all. Thank you.
Suggestion, Harriet. Bonnie, can you just give me one brief second? I forgot to mention when we were talking about Bow Street and mobility. I have reached out and I've spoken with a few of the folks from mobility this last 2 weeks or so, looking at different things, and they were really great to work with, very receptive. And I asked if we could have a permanent spot on our agenda for mobility to give an update and just sort of communicate what's up, what's coming, what's on the pipeline, just so we could have regular communication with them. So, oh, Bonnie, is that hard for me, or did you just mistakenly hit a button?
It's for you, for that idea.
Well, most of my ideas are stolen from you, so, but thank you. and they were very receptive. The only thing I haven't done is sort of tie the knot on that and get an official, yes, we can. But I think that having that commitment together would be important. And the other thing, I apologize again, it was brain fog, is there used to be, Brian, you might be able to help me with this, the bike committee, PTAC, and our commission would get together with mobility when new things were in the beginning phases. I'm probably using all the wrong words, Brian, but if we could have a seat at that table again, I think that would also be helpful.
Yeah, Holly, if I may, again, this is Brian. Those were joint meetings between those three committees and our commission, to have a joint discussion about specific large projects. There haven't been, aside from our annual streetscapes project, there hasn't been a large construction project in the design phase since a year and a half ago, when that was done for Highland Ave. But it was a very effective meeting. And so I think would be plenty intent of doing it again. Bonnie, am I missing one?
That's great. I'm sorry, Bonnie. I appreciate your heart and your patience.
This is Bonnie. Is it okay for me to respond, Holly?
All you, my friend.
Great. I believe that Mobility has reached out and had specific discussion and presentations with at least PTAC and probably also the Bicycle Committee on Western Washington and Pearl Street since then. I mean, I think that they share pretty much everything with them.
Yeah, we had a Western Washington meeting in this commission over the summer, if I recall correctly.
Well, let's just say going forward,
Yeah.
we're gonna proactively look for those opportunities.
I think that's fair.
Mhm. Would you agree, Bonnie? Brian?
Yeah, and if we want to make them, especially for larger projects, making them a joint meeting, that would be also acceptable.
I know I would like that.
Okay.
Thank you, Brian. Bonnie, you probably had something else to say before I had my brain moment click in.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that in terms of the website and PDFs, the general website and what Liam was talking about bringing a PDF up, that still, yeah, they'll open in the browser, which I think should be happening. It's specifically on Legistar, which is where all of the city council and their subcommittee meetings, those don't open in the browser. So in terms of talking about it, I think there's issues with the website in terms of accessibility and the search, but there's also issues in terms of Legistar and how that implementation has been done. And I don't know if that was a contract thing and they wanted to switch or something was clicked wrong, but that's, yeah.
It's all good feedback that I'm sure they appreciate from us. Adrian, thank you for your patience.
Bonnie had the same thought I did. I was just going to offer that the city council calendar part of the website, however it was updated, and I don't know the ins and outs of that, is what has already been said, that the print is very, very small, much smaller, tiny. And that Bonnie is correct. They do not open in the browser anymore. It downloads and, so I was just adding to that because that's a separate, I guess, dashboard. I don't know the technical terminology, but I can check into it.
Adrian, do you have any updates on where we are with our own brailler? I remember there was one put in the budget. And I know we've been getting you documents as soon as we can so that you can have them translated into Braille. But could you have a moment to share where?
There's still internal conversation about that because there's purchasing and timelines and where it's going to be housed. And as soon as I have an update to share out, I will do that.
Thanks. Let's move on. December. I know last month, we talked about if we were going to have a December meeting or not. I personally would like us to have a December meeting. I don't think I need to put it to a vote. But I'm open to any feedback if anyone prefers not to have a December meeting on the 13th. Leand, is December an okay time for you to, does December 13th work for you still?
I haven't actually looked at a calendar, but I haven't put anything on a calendar, so I assume it does.
Okay, we'll go with that. Miss Bonnie, is December?
I think that I have an appointment super early that morning, so I might be a zombie, but otherwise it's fine.
Okay, so I know we were not sure if we were gonna have December or not. I did hear from Jamie specifically that he has no problem with
Jamie's pronouns are they them.
sorry. From them that they were still available to have the December meeting. So unless anyone else sees a reason, I think we should keep the schedule as is, and we'll have our next meeting on the 13th of December. We have, of course, big things. I'm gonna move on to, we're still in continued business. I'm gonna move to item number 4. So we're gonna keep the December meeting. And I had discussed having our meetings be 2 hours instead of an hour and a half going forward. And we were chatting about with, what times or days would be available for people to participate. And I did get quite a few answers back today from the group about days and times that would work. I don't know if I heard back from Liam or Bonnie. Forgive me. Let me just pull up.
This is Leon. I have not yet actually responded to any email today, so that will come later.
No worries. I was seriously clogging everyone's mail files today. Liam, do you think you could let us know that the question, just pull this up. Here we go. The questions that I asked is, are there a particular day that's most convenient for you to attend monthly meetings? So let's say, I'm not suggesting this, but let's say, we didn't have meetings on Tuesdays of each month. We had meetings on a Wednesday or a Thursday or Friday. Is there another day of the week or day?
Sorry, are you asking me to answer right now?
If you can, if you can't, that's fine. We're just trying to sort of plot out what.
Yeah. Off the top of my head, Mondays aren't good and Thursdays may or may not be, but other than that, I am fairly flexible and both day-wise and time-wise.
So Tuesday, Wednesday, and Friday are better than other days.
Yeah, at this point in time, yes. But
Um,
if Thursday is what works best for everyone, then I can probably make it work.
I'm hoping we can plot something that kind of hits everybody's spots. Mr. Postlethwaite, is there, I'm sure you have lots of other conflicts with meetings and such. Are
Yeah,
there other
this is
nights
Brian.
that are available also?
Yeah, this is Brian. I'm answering you right now by email because it's easier. But the big picture is Mondays and Fridays are no-go nights for me.
Okay.
And then the other is just My restriction is usually if there's another council committee meeting that none of us can control,
Understood.
I often have to attend that instead. But you shouldn't schedule around that. That's just something to be aware of. And then the other one is I would encourage you not to co-locate it against another standing committee's regular meeting, like
Yep.
PTAC, Traffic Commission, SBAC, license, for me, Licensing Commission, because I have to go to licensing commissions, but I think they're Monday, so that's not an issue. That's my main comment.
Thank you. Bonnie, do you have anything you could share now about this? There's a good or a bad or a,
This is Bonnie. My term ends next month, so I don't think that this should be scheduled around me.
okay, my heart just broke. Kate's not here.
But I will note that we do have an associate commissioner who has a conflict on Wednesdays.
Okay. Okay. Pauline? I think
I will not be here in December. I've already told Adrian
oh, okay.
that I'll be away.
And if we were to consider changing the day of our monthly meetings from a Tuesday to a different day of the week, is there a day that does not work well for you?
Right off the top of my head, the only day that wouldn't be very good would be Monday.
Okay. Adrian, you've been very patient.
Just a point of logistics, Holly, and I'm sure it's an easy shift, but probably needs to be a vote at some point. It is noted in the bylaws that this body meets on the second Tuesday of every month. So if you all ultimately decide that a different day of the week is better, that there would be a subsequential bylaw change that you would all have to create, put in writing and vote on, so that can be changed formally. So just a point of logistics. And I
Thank
answered your email, so you have my feedback.
Yes, thank you very much. Let's see. And then I did talk about times, but if anyone would prefer to just answer in the email, that would be great too. So we will definitely have our December meeting, and I'm not going to make any changes. I'm just trying to see what works best. And then there was the question of switching it from to 6 to 8 or from 7 to 9. So if you want to answer that in email, that's probably better, just since it's already 7:30. Okay. I am running out of time. So we have the communication plan. We have. Leanne, you have a question or a comment? Sorry.
Yeah, this is just a question about the times. Is 6:30 to 8:30 a possibility that we should also be considering?
If you think that's best, sure. Please go right ahead and put that in your response. I'm just trying to find a 2-hour window. And I recall Kate was saying later is better. But I think that's a fine suggestion also. Trying to make sure that, we can make warm, and that we can continue what we're doing and have a full 2 hours each month. Okay, so we're pardon me for a minute. I'm just trying to decide which way to go next. why don't we talk about the AP fines? Why don't we just the funds that we have? Adrian, do you happen to have an amount that's in the account right now? I feel like I haven't seen a report recently.
They have not sent October. I followed up with parking today. I was on the email for that staff person to be, I think there's a new staff person handling it. So I
Okay.
think that person got a notice to provide it. It just hasn't been provided, but I will check in on that. I can see if I can dig up, I probably can if you give me 2 seconds. September.
Sure, I'm thinking we're somewhere over 90.
And my computer's doing the weird circle blue thing, so give that a second.
That's okay. That's okay. I mentioned earlier the term subcommittees. And this would definitely be a topic that I think the only way we're gonna start to get movement in it is to actually have a subcommittee meet and then come back to the group and share their recommendations or their thoughts, so then we can deliberate and decide on next steps. So, you know, I have a rolling list of things that I've heard us say, or that were in our minutes or my notes of things that we'd like to fund. But I was looking to see if anyone had interest in being a member of the accessible parking fines fund subcommittee.
Sure.
I see a Harriet hand. Okay. Well, I will gladly work on that with you, Harriet. And then we can see if we have another member who'd like to join us. Does anyone have anything they'd like to add to the conversation tonight? Anything new that they have thought of that would be useful for these funds? I will talk- Go ahead, Harriet.
I just wonder if you could read briefly or say briefly the list that we already have. That would be helpful. It's okay if you don't, it's fine.
We have Julia Gibney, who was a parent looking for some funding for after-school programming
Right.
and for things like summer city camp, so that they could have programs for children with disabilities. Specific for that, whether that be, and clearly we need to define what exactly would be helpful. There was also scholarships that were mentioned. There was also having an event. There was also bicycles, and one thing that I saw today when I was walking over to vote this morning was there was a public garden at the Winter Hill School. And I noticed that it was completely inaccessible. It's, you know, very low to the ground, very narrow pathways, and just a very limited teeny spot for you to sort of get in through the gate. And I thought, wouldn't that be nice if it was an accessible garden? And that was just something that, you know, came to mind to me today. So Harriet, I'll reach out to you and we can figure out what works best and sort of get started on that. So we, by December, we'll have something to share. Adrian, do you have something good? 114, 701.
This
Wow.
is as at the end of September, so obviously there's probably more there because we haven't seen October.
Hey,
Thank
Brian,
you.
have you ever have you anything to add of things that you've seen that you think would be valuable for the commission to consider?
I do not have anything in particular to add, but what I was going to do is share the March minutes that are the draft March minutes that have, I think, one of our best collections of all the various topics and place and ideas. Nothing in real detail, but it's just a bunch of, it's like a really good high level view of all the different types of things that we could do when we were brainstorming that month.
Great.
Hmm.
Do you want to,
I'm going to drop it in the chat. And if there's a better way for you, it's just a link. If there's a better way for you, Harriet, to catch it, just let me know.
Email's good too. I
Email's
mean,
good. Okay.
and would everybody on currently present like to see it anyway? And then they might get inspired to work with us.
I think that's a good ploy, Harriet. Let's try that. Harriet, I just texted you that link, so it'll come on your phone.
And then I'll discover if I can open it.
If you can't open it, let me know. We will try other methods to do this. It's just a Word document. A
Oh
link
yeah,
to a Word
should be
document.
fine. It should be
Adrian,
fine.
can you display it, or Brian?
Yeah, I can, hold on. I'm trying.
I have it
Or do you
up.
still have the circle of death circling on your?
No, I made that go away.
Do you got it, Adrian, or do you want me to do it?
I got it. Hold on.
Adrian, where's the cat?
Oh, she heard you.
Usually by now she has come across. There you go.
She's an ex officio member, so you know.
Of many meetings, Harriet. And
Well, we
staff.
all need to feel love and entertainment, you know.
Okay, so can we all see this? And I can
see
read
it,
it if that's helpful. So at the time, the first category we had was stuff / items, accessible playground equipment, accessible sports equipment, magnifying equipment for the library books related to disabilities or characters with disabilities, bus stop benches. And then the next category was programming, art exhibits, performance / poetry, after school programs for students with disabilities, publicity, publications, yard signs, press releases, public service announcements, social media, grant making, scholarship, arts / cultural fund, sign language interpretation for other organizations, and then internal operations, which I think we talked about some of these things at a later time, would fall on the city to provide or fund without having to use this revolving fund. Training, office supplies and equipment, meeting food, once you all decided it was a safe option to go back in person or hybrid, accessible mapping guides, study accessible features to be placed throughout the city, consultant to recommend and direct work throughout the city to improve the lives of those with disabilities, and then parking violation officers to better enforce accessible parking rules.
Thank you both
Wow.
for sharing that, which reminds me that I went to an event that Mass General hosted over at Assembly with the Mass Office on Disability. And not only did they have people there from Spalding talking about adaptive sports and recreation programs, I believe we had discussed that also at one point, but they had this really cool, super unable for people to see it, but I'm holding up this glossy that had QR codes, and each of them are bringing you up to particular apps for your phone. And one was called Supervision Plus, and it's a low vision advanced magnifier app. So you could put this on your phone and clearly use it to really magnify things, which I personally could use. There's another one called All Aboard, which was a head mounted low vision aid. And then there was some an app called Supervision and Search. I don't know if anyone's heard of that, where you not only can have translation, but translation and magnification together. And then supervision and Google's. And that one is about more navigating. And there's also, I'm aware of an app that helps you find handicap parking spots, not just in the city, but in the state. And I think that these types of things, it would be great if we had on our city webpage.
Yeah.
You have something to add, Mr. Hostel, Mr. Brian?
Holly, this is Brian. I was just giving a time check. It's 1:45 and
Thank you.
that's all.
I appreciate that. Did anyone else have a hand raised? Thought I had seen Adrian. Okay. So that was a great event. One other thing that they did share there was they talked about all the grants that they give to that they offer for the commissions on disabilities throughout the state. And they had a speaker from Arlington who talked about how they were using their funds and some of the creative things that they were doing. So we have a commission, a subcommittee, Harriet and myself, for accessible parking funds. The next item I would love to go through briefly is the action item list. It is the last thing under continued business. And nope, it's not the last thing, it's the next thing. And what I was talking about there was having a ongoing list of actions, things that we've either asked for or things that we're waiting for updates on or things that have been assigned so we can track where they are. So things like an update from the subcommittee about the parking fines and where those funds are, which would probably then have a trickle down of actions of this is in process with this group to do funding this program or funding that program. But also like tonight when I asked Adrian to help follow up on a particular topic, I believe it was the issues with the website, that would be something that would go into this document, sort of keep us more organized because we tend to bring up lots of great things and they get into the minutes, but there isn't always time to sort of look back and see where something is that was on the parking list and if we sort of got through it. So I was looking for anyone who would be willing to help with that, sort of creating that list just from the beginning. It's not, I mean, we'd call it a subcommittee, but it's really more of a couple of days of just going through together particular notes and culling together where that list is so we can get it started. Miss Bonnie.
I can do that with you.
Thank you. That would be lovely.
Like probably beginning of December, because Thanksgiving is a thing.
Ah, please. Yes, the Thanksgiving. I hope I don't run out of candy corn by then.
You'll have to ration between now and then.
I bought me a 2.5 pound bag. I should have bought 2 of them. Anyone
can
else
get-
want to join the party with Bonnie and I?
I just want to point out that you can get Thanksgiving flavored candy corn if you really need.
No. No. Is that the one that's like shaped like turkeys too? It's not the same. No. I will not lower myself to that. But thank you for the suggestion. Okay, so yes,
Holly,
Harriet.
you can put me in too. I mean, I'm very curious about the ongoing actions, but I'm probably more listening than culling them out of the notes. But yeah,
That's fine. We'll take all the help we can get. Okay, let me just make a note about that one. We are at the last 10 minutes. Harriet, myself. Okay. The last thing on continued business was the communication plan. And that in the past was something that Henry had expressed interest in working on. And you know, he couldn't be here tonight. I'm not sure if I'm allowed to ask him. Maybe the best thing is to send out a BCC email to see who would have interest in being part of a subcommittee to talk about, you know, sort of drive down what that communication plan would be. I guess that's sort of form in the form of a question. Adrian or Bonnie or Brian, would that be the most appropriate way to approach that? Unless there's someone who'd like to volunteer tonight, but I think I might need to ask a broader group of us.
Yeah, I would recommend, since this is something that Henry was really positing, that it might be best to hold this to next month and when he's able to attend and see if he would like to head something up on that.
Okay. Brian. Yes, Bonnie.
Yeah, I mean, you also could reach out to Henry directly, and you and Henry could always have conversation that doesn't include other people, so it doesn't violate OML and quorum, and work on it jointly so that you have a head start on putting that together so that there's something for commissioners to review and vote on next month.
Okay. Well, we did get through continued business and we did not get on to the new business, but that's fine. I'm satisfied we got a lot of things discussed today. We do have about 7 minutes left. Samantha, if there's something you'd like to ask us about or any feedback you'd like to give us, please feel free.
No, I don't think I have anything specific, just thank you so much for letting me listen in, and I don't know, it's really inspiring to see everybody like doing a lot of like the real local politics work. So thank you guys for doing that.
Well, thank you for coming tonight and thank you for letting me put you on the spot a few times. I think it's great that you are here. Anything that anyone else wants to bring up? There's no way we're going to end 6 minutes early. All right, Harry, you, Bonnie.
Holly, this is Pauline.
Hi.
Did somebody say something about having a Brailleist in-house?
Adrian, do you want to respond?
Thanks, Pauline. What was said earlier, this is Adrian, is as part of the fiscal year 23 budget, there was a line item added to the library's budget to purchase a Braille printer for the city, and that is currently in process. And when I have more to report out on that, I will do so. So that's what we were
Okay.
referring to.
Because the question I wanted to ask or offer my services, I can proofread.
Oh, that's good to know.
I was a professional proofreader at one time.
I feel like you told me that in a different conversation, Pauline, but I appreciate you reminding me.
Well,
Thank
now
you.
that's
I'll be more than
officially in the minutes too.
Yeah, I'd be more than happy to do it, believe me.
All right. Thank you, Pauline. That's helpful.
Harriet, Bonnie, I believe you both raised your hands.
Go ahead, Bonnie.
Thanks, Harriet. Yeah, the a continuing thing is the Tufts dormitory. There there's a letter that was sent to myself and Holly as the previous chair and the current chair that it might be worth sending out to the commissioners just so that other people have the info as well. And I believe that the hearing is still scheduled for November 22nd, but I'm not positive. I haven't looked at the MAAB website in a bit, so I don't know if they've changed it. The date changed a couple of times, but that's just a thing to be aware is happening. They're going to be having a public hearing and people can go and give commentary.
Thank you, Bonnie. That's an important thing you brought up. One thing I would add to that was they were asking that we write a letter in support of what they've requested, which we've already said that we were not in support of. So I certainly wasn't going to be writing a letter, but I will make sure that that gets shared so that we can, if we have any other feedback. Adrian, anything else you want to add on that topic?
No, I was trying to get to the MAAB website to see if I could pull up information on that hearing. It didn't come up right away, but that doesn't mean it's not there. So.
It's in cahoots with the webmaster for the Somerville website. Get the same gerbil on the little wheel powering everything.
Let's see. Hold on, I'm almost there.
Anyone on this call tonight that I can ask what's going on with the rats lately? Because it has gotten so much worse. Bonnie, don't laugh. When you're driving your kids home from like carpool after 5 and they want you to stop so they could take the picture of the straight out giant white rat in the middle of the street, there's an issue.
I'm sorry,
Oh.
I shouldn't laugh, but I have a friend who does pottery and she lives in New York City and she recently made a mug based off of rats. And like the underside of it has a rat and I think there's one inside and there's like a tail. And I just started laughing. I was like, you could retire and make a fortune just selling these to Somerville residents because people would buy them.
I would use it to bash the rats and I wouldn't really have use of a mug, but
okay.
they're insane.
I got the MAAB website up and I was wrong. The date is November 14th, which is next week. The agenda is not yet up. They posted them at the very last minute. It will probably be posted on Friday. I think the meetings are on, or maybe the meetings are on Mondays. And so it'll be posted this Thursday. They never posted ahead. They do the bare minimum 48-hour requirement. So.
And Adrian, I see you posted a link.
Yeah, which is it's the exact thing. I found it probably 3 seconds after Bonnie spoke. So
Cool.
her
What time
computer,
was
her
that?
browser one, if it was racing, her browser one over mine.
I think that I've gone to this website so many times that
Your
just came
cookies
up.
are there.
yeah.
The cookies, that's fair.
Your rat food is there. So back to my concern, it's 7:59. Who's gonna fix the rat problem?
I think what's happening is the rats are eating all the website cookies. Or maybe we need to feed the cookies to the gerbils that are powering the website.
Maybe we need to give them candy corn instead. And they'll all go into diabetic shock, like I probably will after this call, and lie all stretched out and pretty in the middle of the road. I was walking home and my husband kept having me go between the sidewalk and the middle of the street because he knew of areas that have such big rat infestations that it's easier to walk in the street because you can jump faster to avoid them. Sorry, Brian, you have something to add? You're on mute.
This is Brian, no longer on mute. I'm assuming you do not want me to add the rat conversation to the minutes.
No, I think it's fine.
Not
It's a
all of it.
concern. I mean, it was stated. You may not have to add the candy corn comments, but I definitely have concerns for the rats.
I just want to note that the cat came back when she heard rats. So And she's not an outside cat.
Rats,
And I
not
would,
mouse, rats.
no,
My
I would,
spouse says there should be a Somerville cat squad, and they should wear orange vests and be like tough, like 20-pound cats, that'll go out every night, slew a dozen.
No, we could make rat lanes so that
Okay.
they would not disrupt the flow of traffic. Little
Oh,
separate,
Brian,
like
do
the
we
bikes.
just need
Come
to-
on, Brian, you can have a sense of humor on that one.
Do we need to contextualize this as a
Narrow.
disability issue and how some of us can't jump out of the way of rats?
That's good. I like that one.
And also some of us can't see the rats and might be attacked
Yes.
I
Those are
can't
without,
hear them. I can't hear
some
it.
people can't hear the rats.
I'm
It's-
totally capturing this now.
I mean,
Convince me.
Liam, do you want to add sensory issues with the rats?
Ooh, there's definitely something there. I'm
That's
not sure I have the
huge.
exact words that, but
I really think that's huge. Well, I think we'll have to add that to the action items list, Harriet and Bonnie. We'll make sure that
Yes,
the issue
definitely.
of rats and
I would be happy, and I'm sure Adrian would be too, to invite our rat czar Colin to this meeting.
our what?
We have a rat czar. His name's Colin Ziegler.
he's wonderful.
He is.
He's
Rats
a lovely
are-
person.
In
Yeah.
fact, he told us that at the meet, at the
Yeah,
community
he's been in all the ward meetings. Well,
Mhm.
most of them.
Most of them, yeah.
He's
He'd be
great.
more than happy to come.
Czar, like CZ.
So that's not,
That's
not
not
his
his real
official
title,
title.
but that's just what everyone calls him.
What's
he
his,
does, there's some other relatable things he does as well.
Yeah.
But rats is a big part of his job.
and that's part of his position, is he?
That's his position. That's why he was hired.
Yeah.
To help to control the rats, like to find solutions.
As great as this is, I will point out we're now at 8:02.
Yeah, we gotta
So
go.
we're going to, may I have someone,
I will move to adjourn.
I will second.
all those in favor, say aye.
I
Any
Aye.
opposed? Motion passes. We are done. I still have candy corn. We still have rats. Thank you all for being here tonight. Have a good
Hopefully we
evening.
don't have the rats and the candy corn in the same space.
Mm-mm.
That's right.
Bad.
Nope, because I can't hear them to get them in the bag.
I mean, you never know. They could have been dressed up trick or treating, and you wouldn't be able to tell.
Mm. What would a rat dress up as, Leon? A bunny?
a piece of pizza.
Candy corn.
Okay,
That might really break my habit.
bye.
Everyone,
Bye.
and thank you, Idris.
Thank you, Adrian.
Bye.